I was recently in Toronto, where my parents currently are, and my dad saw my carry-on bag and he really hated it, so here's what my dad got me. I wanted this for a while now, but I always thought that the price is so unreasonable, but my dad just got it for me, so let me open it for you. And it also has my initials here, which is so cute. And I also stopped by Dior, and I didn't buy anything, but they got me a gift for Christmas. I've been a customer there, like a pretty loyal customer for a while, so they just treated me with this gift. So I have no idea what is in here, but let's open it. Let me just point out how beautiful this bag is. Wow, this looks so beautiful. It must be like probably a book, I think. What is this? Alright, I'm actually intrigued. Wow, guys, this is like a notebook. I'm so glad that I'm doing this on camera. Here's how it looks like. Very cute. And then, this is another notebook, guys. This is actually gorgeous. My apartment is a mess because I'm packing and I have a flight in a few hours to go see my boyfriend. We started a long-distance relationship not that long ago, and as I'm packing in the luggage which my dad gifted me, I wanted to share with you my motherhood expectations, because the older I get, I'm currently 26, of course I start thinking about family more and more. And when I think about a perfect family, I always think about my parents. Many people often ask me that I'm 26 in Ukraine, it's like a good age to get married, maybe even a little too late. But the main reason why I don't want to get married, and I'll be honest with you, not that I don't want to get married, I feel like I'll be ready to get married when, and once again, this is going to be so controversial, but I will only be ready to get married when I know that my husband can do all of the things which my dad is providing to me right now. And of course, as much as I'm trying to be financially independent, my parents still play a huge role in my life. And the moment I get married, I don't want my parents to continue supporting me because, once again, controversial, but the way I see a perfect marriage is that a girl is raised in a family who's supporting her, and then a family is passing that responsibility to a guy. And I'm not saying that women aren't capable of doing anything. Of course not. I'm a feminist, but I'm also pretty traditional in this way. So I want to talk about motherhood expectations by explaining how I was raised and what were the responsibilities of my dad and my mom. So I'm the youngest of three in my family. My parents have three daughters, and when I was born, my parents were already financially well off. So the way I was raised was very different from how my sisters were raised, but the way I was witnessing my parents was extremely privileged. So first of all, my mom, she didn't work, but it's not like she wasn't involved in my dad's business. She was extremely involved. She just didn't have this traditional job, right? On the paper, she was the co-founder of every business my dad ever started, because my parents believed that if one person has the privilege of working and the other person has to sacrifice their time in order to spend time with children and to make sure that everything is good at home, both people should benefit financially. Otherwise, it's just unfair towards a woman. And my dad always knew that the reason why he has an opportunity to work, to spend so much time there, is because my mom made sure that everything is absolutely good in the house. And my dad didn't have to worry about it for a single second. That's why all of his emotional capacity could be spent on his work, because he knew that at home everything is good. And if it wasn't good, my mom would handle it, often without telling him. And it's not that he was not a team player, but my mom knew that they're responsible for two different things, and my dad is not gonna worry my mom about some minor problems in his business, just like my mom wasn't worrying him about us. But when it would be something serious, of course, our family is all about partnerships, so we would always figure things out together. Even us as children, we would always be present when serious decisions were made. And when I often ask my mom, who's the ideal man for you? She responds once again in her traditional way, and I'm not saying that this is one rule fits all, but my mom says that the perfect man is somebody who lets you enjoy motherhood. And this is exactly what my dad did for my mom. My mom had so much help at home. She had gardeners, we had drivers, we had bodyguards, we had maids. Everybody was helping us a lot. Everybody was helping my mom a lot. And I know that when you're thinking about a family like this, it definitely sounds like a very spoiled family. And I know that mothers in families like this are often spoiled as well. And by the way, I don't think that being spoiled is a bad thing. My mom is the most down-to-earth person. And because my mom had so much help in the house, she wasn't like exhausted doing all of the things at once. I expect to have the same type of help when I have my children. And let me explain why. The reason why my parents were able to always be happy to see each other is because every time my dad would come home, my mom would be like, girls, come here, let's meet dad. We would all meet him all together when he would come to the house. He would start asking us about our day right away. My mom would help him to take off the coat. And she was always smiling. Like, when I think about my childhood, I always think about my mom smiling all the time. Like, she's such a positive person, but the reason why she was able to stay positive is because she wasn't exhausted. Because for the whole day she wasn't cleaning, cooking, doing garden, and then driving kids to school and back. She had time to recharge. She had time to, because she loved cooking for my dad, like our mates were cooking for me and my sisters, but my mom would always cook for my dad. And my mom loved gardening, and she had time to spend her free time on things which she actually loved. And that's what my dad loved, because for him, the definition of a man is somebody who lets the women in the family enjoy their life. That's the entire point of making money for my dad. So everybody else gets to enjoy their free time. Because what's the point if he has this opportunity to make her life easier? What's the point to not give that help to your family? And for my mom and for my dad, I knew that we are number one priorities for them. And I knew that my mom would always make sure that we, as her children, we have the best opportunities. So I'm not saying that private schools are way better than public schools. In no way. My parents themselves were always telling me that you're taught by the same books everywhere. It's about the people who surround you. And the person who decided that we have to go to private schools was my mom. And the reason why she wanted to do this is because she wanted to make sure that we get to network from the early age, because she knew that this would be a very useful skill for us. And that's why I also want my kids to go to a private school, because I think it's just a good opportunity to network. Everything in life is about networking, either we want to admit it or not. Unfortunately, we live in the capitalist society, and we either have to play by the rules or we have to go against the system. But we often have to ask ourselves, is this beneficial for us in this moment to go against the system, or is it only going to be damaging to us? And of course, we would all love to be revolutionists, right? But sometimes you have to know what fight to pick. And the reason why it was so beneficial for me to attend private school is because once I went to university, you won't believe it, but people in the same social class, they know each other, no matter where they're located. And when I moved to university, I met so many people with who we had mutual friends, because some of my friends were in private school in Switzerland, other in England, and then there are classmates who would go to Syracuse with me. We would follow each other on Instagram and we would see that we were mutuals. It was such an easy connection between us. It's like somebody already networked on my end to make sure that me and this person now we become friends. And I know it sounds silly, but it made my life so much easier so many times, because some of my best friends I met in university were the friends of my old friends from middle school, for example. The credits go to my parents, because they were the first ones who introduced me to this society. And that's why my expectation is also going to be sending my kids to the private school, because I want them to feel comfortable networking. And it's so prideful and it's so ignorant to say, but it definitely, like, I want to just say it how it is. It gives you confidence knowing that you belong to this society. And it's horrible and it's wrong. But so many times I felt confidence because I knew that I belonged to this group. And I never want my kids to come to me and ask me the question why their kids are able to afford this and you cannot provide this to me. I feel like I would feel so ashamed in front of my kids for doing this. And I think it's my responsibility as a future mother to make sure that they have a dad, and me, of course, I'm not putting away any responsibility from myself. But I want to make sure that they have a dad who's going to be there and who's going to be extremely supportive. My parents made sure that I have everything in my life, and I feel like if my kids have less than I did, I feel like I failed on my end. So many women are ready to go into a relationship without knowing what to expect, and it's absolutely crazy to me because I feel like it puts children in danger because you're not talking upfront about what are your expectations, and then you get disappointed. Of course you're going to be disappointed if you didn't discuss everything. That's why I'm a strong advocate for prenup, because so many couples feel awkward about discussing subjects such as finances, and then both of them end up feeling disappointed because they were silently expecting very different things from each other. But going to a lawyer and signing a prenup forces you to have those conversations, and this is a perfect time to understand, oh, maybe this person is not for me because when I'm a mother, I don't want to work at all, but he expects that I'm going to be working all the time. So in order to avoid those disappointments, it's so important to actually have those conversations. And motherhood expectations are often so not discussed. And I don't understand how it could be, because how are you willing to give birth to a child with this person, but you're not confident and you're afraid that this is an awkward subject to discuss. You're afraid that you will seem pushy. That's the point. You're supposed to be pushing for your kids. You're supposed to expect a lot for your children. Otherwise, just don't have them, because so many people end up in horrible conditions. It's the fault of the parents if children do not have any conditions. And I'm not talking about expectations such as private school, of course not. But if you do not have money for children at all, and it costs so much to raise a child, why are you bringing them into this world? And I know that it might sound arrogant and spoiled, but I'm a believer that if you're willing to bring a life into this world, you're supposed to be ready for so many things and crazy expenses as well. And when I also want to be a mother, I want to take a break from work for some time while I'm pregnant and maybe for the first 3 years of a child, because I want to dedicate myself to motherhood. I want to enjoy this, and I don't want to try to balance those things out, because it's going to be a completely new role to me, a role for which schools or people are not preparing you. You kind of have to figure it out as you go. And that's why I want to fully dedicate myself to my child during those years, and I don't want to be distracted by work. Of course, in the long term, as I think right now, I want to go back to working. But for some time, I want to put it aside. And that's why it's so important for me to make sure that I'm going to be with a man whose expectations are in line with mine. And it means that this man is going to be ready to take full responsibility for me and the child and for himself for some time. And I know that in today's society, like, it seems old-fashioned and not cool. And don't get me wrong, I'm a feminist myself. I'm all down for women to work. I think women should work because it creates them with financial security. But I also believe that if you decide to create a family, you should understand that you guys will have different roles at some point of time. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're with the person who will take this responsibility. And that's why it's so important to sign a prenup where you will write down this agreement and how much you as a woman will be getting in allowance, or whatever you want to call it, while you're pregnant, while you're not working, when the child is born, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's great trust in your partner, but I believe in writing things down and signing them. Highly recommend. Another expectation I have for my children is my parents were always traveling with me and my sisters a lot. We traveled 4 times a year, and I know how expensive it is, and we would never go to the same places because my parents wanted us to learn different cultures, to kind of pick up different languages. Of course, it's impossible to learn a language when you're just traveling, but they wanted us to know like basic phrases because they knew that this is going to be extremely beneficial for us. And I also want my kids to learn not only in schools, but I want them to learn the world. I want them to go around the world. I want them to see different cultures, to learn, to enjoy this experience, to look at this as quality time with their parents. And that's why I will also be expecting my kids to travel a lot, and this also requires a lot of money. And on top of that, apart from having fun, my mom was also very serious about our discipline. She always wanted to make sure that apart from school, we have many other activities. And my parents gave me an opportunity to try myself at different things. I tried myself in different sports. I tried myself in music, in art, in so many things. And the reason why I was able to figure out what I'm actually good at and what I'm interested in, because my parents were willing to invest in all of those different things. You don't just naturally find out what you're good at. Of course, in some cases, when the miracle happens, you do. But usually it takes parents sending your kids to different activities so they get to learn what they hate, what they love, and what they want to dedicate their life to. And once again, it costs so much. I have an older sister right now who has 3 kids, and when she tells me how much she's paying for their extra activities, my jaw is always on the floor because it costs crazy money. But when you're bringing another life into this world, you also want them to bring positive impact into the world. And that's why, how can you expect them to become somebody when you didn't give them this opportunity in the first place? So it's a parent responsibility to make sure that a child is equipped with the knowledge of what they're good at, what they're interested in, and what they want to do with their life. And I know people will say that those are crazy expectations, you will never find anybody like this, blah, 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 blah. I'm not in a rush. I'd rather wait. But I, as a woman who wants to be a mother in the future, I believe my children will deserve the best. And so do I. And I don't know what's bad about this. So often women are guilt-tripped into thinking that they expect too much. Isn't this a compliment? Isn't it great that I don't settle for something which is not enough for me? And I saw with my own eyes that men like this exist. I saw my father, I saw how my mom was treating him, how he was treating her. And I know that it's a reality, it's not a fairy tale. There are men like this out there. And when women are guilt-tripped for wanting too much, for being spoiled, why are men never guilt-tripped for using women, for using their bodies? When they do not want serious relationships, they still go and they use women. Why are they not blamed for this? But women are blamed for wanting a good life. Very interesting. I love this logic. So if people are trying to guilt-trip you, that this is too much, you want too much, you will never find it, just say, okay, I'm okay with not finding it, but I'm not okay with settling. Life by yourself can be a very interesting, very exciting, very cool life. I would rather be alone than have to lower not only my expectations, but to lower the expectations of my future children. I'm either gonna bring an amazing life into this world, a life who can enjoy the life, or I'm not gonna do this. Because I want my kids to grow up with the role model mother and with the role model father, who are doing everything for them. Especially, like, because my dad had girls, he taught me not to settle, not to be impressed by the small things. He taught me what is the bare minimum, and he set the plank so high that I understand that anything is possible. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay as well. But I'm not gonna spend my life trying to reteach a guy on how to treat me, what children should expect. No, and please remember that you cannot, like, find some guy and be like, those are my expectations, and he will say yes, yes, yes. But if you see that this is not who he is, run. Because you should find the person who naturally feels this way, who naturally wants to provide for his family. You cannot make a person be this way. Their parents can, but you cannot meet an adult and turn them into this. Start dating people who you like from the start. They are not projects which you have to work on. No, you are just two lives. You come into each other's lives and you make it better. You're not working on your work, on your career, on yourself, on your self-development, and on the development of another person. You're not a mother yet. If this is just your boyfriend or your husband, you're not a mom. This is a responsibility of a mother to invest time, money, and energy into a man or into a girl, but not into a partner. No, don't make this mistake. Keep this energy and spend it later on your children. So yes, that's how I feel. I know that it's gonna be a controversial video, but I'd rather be controversial but help. Even if it's one girl, I'd rather help her. So as always, thank you for listening to me, guys. If you want to talk more about some controversial and privileged topics, please subscribe, and thank you for listening.